Welcome to Mo's Market Pulse. I'm your host, Sarah Mokram, founder of Mo Digital Solutions, where we help businesses hit their revenue goals and thrive. On this podcast, we talk with industry leaders about their business, market trends, growth strategies, and what's ahead. On today's episode, we are joined by Zach Howland, founder and CEO of SKU Mantra. Zach, thank you so much for taking time to join me today.
Thank you.
So let's go ahead and start at the beginning. So I know your career path has taken you through several different industries. And I just want to kind of step back and think back on that journey. And what was the turning point or frustration in your past roles that made you realize there was a real need to start SKU Mantra?
Yeah, my journey's odd. I started off as a pastor for 5 years, got my graduate degree in Greek and exegetical deductive logic, and found myself not making enough money having to pay for student loan bills. So I migrated into SaaS, selling it, getting a feel of what it was like. And I landed in some e-commerce companies. And when I landed in those e-commerce companies, I realized, holy smokes, syncing SKUs across systems is a total racket and it's a money suck. It's manual, it's slow, it's causing all sorts of problems. Many of these e-commerce companies are using multiple systems in their immaturity. And then by the time they need to grow up and mature into a robust ERP system, they need their SKUs to be intact to make that transfer, but none of them can make that transfer easily because their SKUs are a mess. And when they get into that ERP environment, they need something that is solid, set in stone for that transfer to work across now a unified system. And I found myself as a sales leader in these e-commerce companies, realizing that my people couldn't pull inventory numbers. I couldn't pull sales metrics against SKUs. I couldn't see what sales transactions were going through, what weren't. And I spent a lot of my time then rebuilding back-end databases and teaching myself how to do it. And once our SKUs synced across systems, our sales volumes could go up. We could make better decisions. Everything just moved smoother and faster. And because of that, then you can upgrade your systems faster. You can market more aggressively and attack, your target areas across the United States or Europe, wherever you want to go with your product, and sales explode. And everything scales up from there. If you can hire people that can trust your systems when they ask you outside the interview, then you can go and target the right people who can throttle your sales faster. You can target better salespeople. So I really realized early on that a lot of business decisions and growth landed on, do our SKUs work for our company? And I went through a couple of companies that had this core issue. Some of them were, $5 to $10 million companies. Others were well on their way to $1 billion and struggling with this issue. And I just decided, hey, like, why am I doing this for other people? Why not start a company that specifically focuses on scaling SKUs across a tech stack for industries that struggle with this problem? And those industries range from, companies that manufacture products like computers and cars, industries like cannabis who have lots of market compliance issues, or industries that just sell t-shirts, across omni channels like Amazon or Walmart.com. And so that's how I landed, launching SKU Mantra and building out proprietary tools from that to throttle SKU processes and SKU maintenance across tech stacks.
So, with your company, are you then providing not only consulting and strategy and kind of helping them in that aspect, but then also providing an actual tech platform as well?
Yeah, it's both, so every company who comes to me is struggling with SKUs within some regard, whether they're upgrading their tech stack or they're currently struggling to sync the SKUs across their systems already, or they need to onboard a ton of SKUs with vendors and they can't do it fast enough. And so I have a recommended software stack that is utilized to manage and host that SKU database once you go live. So I will rebuild their SKU, their SKU taxonomy, their SKU nomenclature, and their SKU governance processes. I rebuilt those databases in accordance with those. And once that's built, I put them inside of platforms called PIMS, Product Information Management Systems, that are they're like SKU vaults. They're meant to insulate SKUs from having any corruption outside. And then we go to integrate that PIM into their systems of record, whether it's Shopify or QuickBooks or NetSuite, wherever we want to point and shoot those SKUs. And then typically from there, the companies realize, holy smokes, to add SKUs and keep up with this process, I can't do it fast enough. So I have a proprietary tool that is a SKU wizard that is incredibly robust, that sits in between the PIM and an outside CSV file. And they can, based on the proprietary rules that I've built inside that company, you can feed your data into my system. It will produce all of their SKUs, all of their SKU architecture, all of their system optimized attributes for all the systems that need to intake those SKUs. Once those are created, my system, my SKU wizard, pushes those SKUs into their SKU vault, into their PIM, and then they're ready to go. So I basically produce data ready, sales ready data sets to then be sold out, to then be pushed out onto marketplaces. Most companies I work with ultimately end up using my SKU wizard because they would rather not hire a team of people to create SKUs and do this kind of product lifestyle process. They'd rather be able to upload something ready to roll and then kick it out.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And what I operate in a couple of specific industries. An industry that tends to really love my product is the cannabis space that has lots of individual market compliance issues. So I have a specific cannabis module that takes care of everything that a cannabis company could need to ingest SKUs and be market compliant across all 50 states and in Europe. And that module is built out just for that. But then I have other modules for like a manufacturer or a 3PL that is ingesting a ton of SKUs from vendors. So it kind of varies, but they ultimately all of these companies end up loving to implement my tool when they realize, man, SKU governance, if we do this right, does take time. It does take effort. And that's how we landed in this place to begin with, right? The rat's nest was created by us. We now have to change that strategy up and make sure that this is a healthy process and moving forwards.
So, new mantra is tackling something that maybe some executives or leaders don't even realize, though, is costing them money. So, how do you explain the problem to someone who hasn't yet felt that pain of the bad product data?
Yeah, it's a great question. I actually just posted on this today. I find that leaders have no idea that it's a problem until it's too late. They're not asking the right questions of the people who are on the ground. Good indicators are, is your warehouse shipping out the wrong product? If they're shipping out the wrong product, that means they're picking the wrong product. That means SKUs are not being binned accordingly to their correct SKU record in their warehouse. And if we're getting a lot of missed shipments, we're wasting time and money. Another indicator is, hey, I need to pull a sales report, but I can't get accurate sales analytics because I'm realizing we've got 10, 20, 30, 40 SKUs for the same product and none of them match to each other. Another indicator is, my supply chain people. I have to reorder product. They're reordering off of one SKU, but they realize, holy smokes, 10 other SKUs are carrying inventory off of the one SKU. And I actually should be looking at these 10 because these 10, instead of being rolled into one SKU, they're rolled into 10 and they start ordering product that they don't need. Or you can't run accurate forecasts against your SKUs. So supply chain people can't run accurate forecasts. Salespeople will often see this a lot too. Like they'll say, I can't trust my inventory because I have to wait and wait and wait to sell product because I don't know if it's actually in my inventory. So they can't look inside their CRM or their ERP and see a live inventory count against what's happening. Or if nothing is there, they can't forward sell to their client, right? So they can't be like, oh, hey, Sarah, I don't have any now, but I see my supply chain people have ordered these, but we have 1,000 of them coming in. We're forecasting that order to hit our ramp within the next 3 weeks. I only have 20 other people that have placed orders for these. So I have 400 that have been claimed. I have another 600 that are going to land. If you order them now, I can earmark them for you once they come in. You see how that works? So that whole line of thinking is revolved around that SKU. And so each department really kind of raises their own white flag. And a lot of leaders in a company will often say, who cares? It's just SKUs. Well, if your CFO can't pull accurate reports, if your supply chain people can't order effectively, if your salespeople can't trust and sell effectively, if your warehouse people can't trust your WMS system for what they're pulling, that whole ecosystem is broken. And so Those are like some indicators that raise those red flags. But the problem is okay, once we realize this, we need to slow down. We need to find somebody who can think through all of these systems and all of these problems. We need to patiently work to resolve then all the databases within all these systems and then put the solution in place and the governance in place to maintain it moving forwards. And projects like these they're complex. It's not just SKUs. It's this SKU gets ordered from this vendor, and this vendor, and we need to track those vendor SKUs against our SKUs, and then we sell into all these markets. So we need, a data architecture that responds to all those markets, right? It's like it's a Rubik's cube inside your environment that now needs to operate against your selling strategy, your purchasing strategy, your warehouse source management strategy. It's everything. And a lot of C-level leaders who aren't operating on the boots on the ground. They just want to sell, and bring in that revenue. They don't want to spend money to solve it. They don't have the patience to solve it. So it just festers. And then eventually like I said, they have to upgrade a system. And their people who are implementing the ERP come to them and say, hey, we can't implement the ERP because we can't pull an accurate SKU database to upload into our system. Maybe another one to even talk about is if you're selling a lot of SKUs and you're doing a lot of inventory recounts, you should probably do a monthly or a quarterly recount in general. But if your recounts are often wrong over and over and over again, or you're having to redo those recounts over and over again, your SKU system is broken, right? An ideal SKU system, you should never have to do a recount. So yeah, that just paints a picture for a C-level leader, and they just need to be in the weeds with their people, asking these questions, and be patient enough to solve the problem and trust that once the problem is solved, I have customer after customer after customer whose revenue explodes because now everything just flows right between all of their departments.
Right. That makes total sense, you explaining it like that, and it does make sense too, even with sales, of being able to see what's coming down the line and even being able to communicate that with people who are interested, which could be a sale right there. But if you can't, then you've lost that person onto the next, right? So let's zoom out from SKU Mantra specifically and look at the broader market that you're operating in. What shifts are you seeing in how companies are managing their product data today compared to even 3 years ago? And what do you think is driving that urgency?
Yeah, I think a lot of companies were operating their product data within silos. So they had a team managing their product information in Shopify, and then they had a team of people operating in NetSuite, and then they had a team of people operating in their UMS system, and then they had other people who were managing these in spreadsheets to push that data out to whatever channel they were selling on Amazon or Walmart or wherever. And there's companies that are still doing this, but that was the old way of doing this. And companies that are still doing this realize quickly, if you're not centralizing that data into a single source of truth, a lot of errors start happening between all these departments, because now whenever you institute a change on one SKU, you've got to contact 10 different departments and trust that they're going to execute that. And then you realize that Annie and Jason in these two departments didn't do it right. And then we listed that on Amazon, and now that sales transaction didn't go through, and it was a large volume sale, and now we lost that customer. So now the new way, what's pushing the change is the competitive edge against competition that's selling your same SKU. And those people that can prop up those SKUs faster and get their products visible to the market faster and execute those transactions at scale and ship those products more accurately, they're keeping those customers. They're winning those customers and keeping those customers. And so those companies, whether you're, again, a car manufacturer that needs to make your build at Tesla incredibly aggressive in your supply chain and build super accurately out the gate to save on cost and offer your product, cheaper than the other electrical cars out there, or you're just shipping t-shirts, the accuracy of your product data is becoming more important. So that's like the first thing. Centralizing product data, that shift in market is not a new concept, but the speed at which people are pushing the buying cycle is getting faster and faster and faster because connectedness to mobile, now moving to glasses, is getting your access to products. So it's in the real world to the digital world, that connection has to be faster and more accurate. And that's going to only live shopping has accelerated this. Live shopping is taking off with systems like Whatnot or Amazon live sellers. Being able to hold up a product and sell it live, connect the real world to the digital world and execute that transaction faster is that shopping trend is blowing things up. But then platforms like ChatGPT, platforms like Claude, like Grok, they're able to hoover up all this data. And if you don't have accurate product data listed on your website, that AI engine is going to pass over your products and you're not going to have a shot at that AI engine recognizing that taxonomy and at the accurate level of search that now a customer can put in. They're not going to be able to find it. Not only that, but if your product data isn't classified structurally, like this hat, this color, this size, this logo, this market, to that level of granularity, the person that is searching in this market for that hat at this size, right? At that level of granularity, an AI engine is now going to be able to personally shop for a person that wants that exact thing. And that's what taxonomy engines do. That's why having good product schemas it will be incredible for AI innovation. If you have great schematics on your taxonomy, and the moment you put AI recognition code on your website, then to allow it to scrape your website, you are opening the door for sales volume. And the companies that just don't have that level of taxonomy, an AI engine's not going to pick them up in the same way. So it's that old management cycle that I talked about. It's the desire to be linked to products faster and faster and faster. Google Glass is going to be just this thing. Like, I want to be able to look at this wall of records and have the AI engine recognize what record that is and have it look for this one thing and have it go find this cover somewhere on the internet, find that image, and I want to buy that product. Glass is going to be able to do that. And then last but not least, just having an aggressive taxonomy to feed an AI engine is going to drive, your company to grow too. So, those are kind of three.
So, the cannabis industry has some of the strictest compliance requirements and SKU complexity. So, why do you think SKU Mantra resonates so well there? And do you see that playbook expanding into other regulated markets?
Yeah, I'll paint this picture for you. Okay. So this is a pen, just a regular pen, but let's just say this is a vape pen. In the cannabis industry, let's just take the US. Let's say that cannabis products could be legally sold in all 50 states, right? Right now, it's probably like 10 or 12, right? But we are T-minus months away from federal legalization for all cannabis products to be sold in all 50 states. But each state has its own regulatory body on how you can name this pen inside of their market. So imagine I'm a cannabis company that manufactures this pen. In order for me to sell this pen in 50 states, I need 50 different child records to push to all 50 states. And I need to push all 50 of those records to my 6 different cannabis platforms, my POS system, my barcode system, my wholesale system, my ERP system, Metric, which is a cannabis compliance tracking platform, BioTrack, another one. You need to be able to push all 50 of this parent SKU and all 50 of these records to all these platforms synonymously. And once you do that, now that product is available for sale in that market. If you can't do that, if you have to go through manually and make all of these manual creations, it takes a ton of time. And meanwhile, your salespeople are getting calls. Hey, I want these pens in my retail location. Hey, I want the right. But you can't do that because you haven't been able to make all of those SKUs. Not only that, but let's say this vape pen needs to be called in Minnesota 2-chamber pen. And in this one it's called an all-in-one pen. And in this one it's called an all-in-one vape pen. And this one it's called an all-in-one 2-chamber vape pen. Every state has their own nomenclature. With my platform, you feed it 1,000 products of of vape pen category. You feed it into my system, and my system will manufacture all 50 compliant SKUs out the gate. It'll give you the SKU formation. It'll give you the customized nomenclature that's required in each state, and it will optimize all of your system attributes. Each one of your system, like to toss this inside of a cannabis POS system, you need 10 core attributes to tell that system this is what that thing is in order for, right? And then you need another 10 in this system. My platform will optimize all those attributes for system readiness. So now my system is creating the parent SKU, the child market SKUs, the customized nomenclature that meets compliance in all those markets. It's optimizing all of those systems out the gate. And now it's ready to import that into your PIM system and all of your other systems for ready for sale. That process to make 1,000 SKUs multiplied by 50 markets. So now we're making 50,000 SKUs in one shot with all those optimized attributes. I can do that in 2 minutes. Most cannabis companies, what they're doing is they have a different team in each market of 2 to 4 people managing the compliance SKU creation for each one of those things. The marketing team creates this product, says, hey, Louisiana team, make this SKU. Hey, Arkansas team, make this SKU. And now they're depending on people to make the accurate thing. And now, let's say all hell breaks loose, and a new market is created or a new compliance issue is made in a couple states. Now they have to go back and remake all those things all over again. Right now you can like see the mess. So in regulated markets, what's awesome is we know the rules. So we can build those rules in our back end and take a team of 40 people down to a team of 2 people and produce SKUs at scale against the nomenclature that they want and they need. We can customize all sorts of system rules on the back end that they want to just because they want them. And we have now a platform that is flexible to scale. And now let's say Europe all of a sudden adds their market and this customer wants to expand. Well, we just take the European rules, we build them out inside of our system for them, and boom, they're ready to go. It is a mess. And so my engine, my platform as a service of sorts, it's built for compliance in these modules. It's built to maintain all of these rules and just carry around this lockbox purse of rules wherever they go. And if they ever have to make changes, we go in there, we make their changes, we push update, it reprocesses their database, and every SKU is now compliant again. Versus going into each SKU manually and having to update each SKU manually, we can reprocess those rules across the entire database and have it ready. I am shocked that cannabis companies are able to survive how they are doing it right now. So much money is thrown into these types of engines. And a lot of the leaders, but they operate on such slim margins, they're just praying that things don't fall apart, or they're praying that another market doesn't break them. And so to have a tool like this, it's great. It makes a lot of sense. And people who operate in this space, who struggle with this SKU creation, they look at the product and are like, holy smokes, we need this yesterday. And to your question of, are there other markets where this could fit? Absolutely. I mean, again, any market, any industry that has compliance rules against their SKUs and they're just manually managing all this stuff, the next evolution of technology using AI taxonomy engines to manage these rules, I mean, it makes total sense. Now you still need humans to make sure that it's met to it exceeds expectations and the flow is correct. The engine can only think about the data and the rules that you feed it, but it's then our job to be stewards of that platform to make sure it meets our needs. So yeah, I mean, it's built for this.
Well, that sounds incredible. And, it totally makes sense where it's like, so your system can take any new rule or compliance and feed it in kind of from the top down, right? And then it implements it down with an update versus manually having to do it piece by piece.
Yep. And in each system,
Mhm. Right.
right? Because that schema doesn't exist inside of just this POS. They've got to fix it over here, and then they've got to fix it over here, and then they got to fix it over. It's nasty.
Yeah. So it sounds like you have an amazing product. So I want to move now from the market view to your growth strategy. So, starting a new venture is one thing, but then scaling it, getting customers, building awareness, creating demand. What has been the most effective way so far to reach the kinds of clients that you want at SKU Mantra? What has been working for that client acquisition for you?
Yeah, for me, it's not been marketing, investments in driving people to my website. It's been building partnerships with other software companies that are ingesting SKUs. And then they run into a customer that can't give them the SKU file they need, and they say, "Oh, we've got a partner that can rebuild your database for you and level set you." So it's really my engine has been building good business partnerships with SKU first companies, whether they're PIMS or WMS or ERP or point of sale systems. Anyone that is needing to get a SKU file from their customers and it just takes forever and it's messy. That's how I'm finding all my leads. I post a lot on LinkedIn. I mean, I'm a Gary V fan, but I'm not posting, 1,000 posts a day, but I try to post 2 or 4 times a day. And I'm finding that LinkedIn is super, I mean, I'm not a boring person. I post content that's relevant to my niche and my market. But first, and like if I'm posting things on cannabis, LinkedIn doesn't really like that. And a lot of cannabis people, leaders are still kind of dark on LinkedIn. It's still kind of a dark area of like, I'm in cannabis. I'm sure that drug companies who are going to get into mushrooms and whatever different new drug products that are going to come out, those people are on the edge of marketing, being able to market to them. They're not legacy companies. So I'm not finding things on LinkedIn. I'm not finding LinkedIn to be a very fruitful environment, other than I'm finding companies that are selling to cannabis companies, or they're selling to niche people, and they're like, "Oh, we need to talk to Zach to learn about how he does this, because we're selling to these people too, and we need help in this space." So I spend a lot of my time, like some personal goals I have is twice, 2 times, if I'm making setting up good solid business conversations with 2 top level leaders each week from new software companies, I consider my week a success. And then I'm looking to hopefully sign a partnership contract within a couple of months, find and build my ecosystem out of just good solution providers. And I don't think faith and hope is a strategy, but when you align yourself with the right partners, faith and hope becomes a really solid strategy, because you're investing into that bucket of partners that is really meaningful and is not going to toss you to the back of the line. And so my engine has been partners.
And so every founder or leader faces challenges, of course, of limited time and resources. So when you think about scaling over the next year, what areas of growth are you prioritizing? And are there any trade offs that you will have to make?
Yeah, there's 2 areas that I am already thinking about. These SKU projects are heavy projects. They're detailed, they're Rubik's cubes. You've got to understand a lot. So I'm thinking about adding project managers that I can train to be my brain and to enter into a project and build out the documentation necessary to prop up these SKU databases. So I'm first thinking about who are the people who understand how databases work, who understand how integrations work, who understand how SKUs need to flow, and who can I then put in chair to manage a project, to take on more projects. Alone, I can manage about 5 to 8 projects myself, and my brain starts to go schizo. It's just too much information. The second part is my platform is really robust, but I'm already thinking about what can I do to expand it and make it better. And I've built my platform on the backbone of Salesforce Enterprise. I love what it can do, but it has data limitations. So my next leap is deciding on a custom software stack. Where do I want to make that leap to? What's my backend going to be? What's my piping going to be? Like all these, that's going to cost me money and time. So I need to be able to do that responsibly and then migrate my customers effectively so they don't feel any service interruptions. So I'm looking at, investing there. How can I upgrade my stack to be ready for my growth and then build meaningful features in that to justify that monetary investment. So yeah, those are two areas I'm thinking about.
Great. And what's been the single biggest frustration since launching SKU Mantra? Something that maybe keeps you up at night or is on your mind?
Sure. I work with data all day. Like I stare at spreadsheets. I sit in my office by myself and I'm looking at sometimes four computer monitors to manage everything. I'm not building like a social network, right? I'm not building Facebook where users can sign up easily, right? I'm looking for companies that are willing to invest a significant amount of money to fix a real pain point. And so the first thing that I think about is, are there enough companies out there who are going to want to fix this problem enough to invest? So I think about that a lot. More often than not, like those customers end up coming at my door, and I trust that the more my brand grows and my experience in the space is trusted, they'll just continue to come. The second piece that I'm realizing is no matter how much data I work with, no matter how confident I am that a deployed data set is perfect, data ultimately almost always ends up winning that battle, the messiness of it. And so whenever I come down to the bottom line, my brand is built and trusted on accuracy. I am building the bedrock of how a company is operating on, and they're trusting me that that schema is insulated for the next 20 years, right? They don't want to make that investment and then not be scaled for whatever. And so I base my brand on me thinking through all of the systems upgrades, all of the variances of new products they could face. This schema is solid. And when it gets built, I'm always concerned on like, is it before I load the final data set into their final database, like, is this really accurate? I'm always making sure I have 3 to 4 people, whether it's 2 at the company and 2 on my dev side, auditing the final piece. I'm very patient to deploy a final solution because once a data set is in place and operating within a company, if the pieces aren't thought through and if the governance strategy is not thought through, that data can be corrupted very quickly. And so I haven't had this as a major issue ever, but I pride myself on I'm up late at night wrestling with, is my data as accurate as it needs to be to support the anxieties of this customer and the stresses that this customer is going to face? And I pride myself on, yes, like almost every time before I deploy the final piece, it's ready. But I make mistakes. I just had a customer, we deployed 1.3 million SKUs, and I realized that I had populated a really critical part of their database, a parent SKU field, which in my world, like that's an important part of the database. I populated it with a master SKU. It's a different level of intellect in the database. And I deployed it and I was shoot, and then I had to rebuild the database, run it through my system, and do a re-upload, right? Here's the thing is you can make big mistakes in data. The goal is to have your customer feel like the mistake can be handled and dealt with. And there is, without massive interruption for them, make them feel calm and relaxed. And big data projects carry a lot of anxiety and weight in companies. And I pride myself on just staying true to the fact that if I surround myself with good devs, if I have good brains on my team, if my brain is sharp, there isn't a problem we can't solve. If a mistake happens, we stay calm, we investigate it, and we deploy the solution. And we set that tone at the beginning. We make the customer know, like, we're not perfect, but we have the right brains on the to solve whatever engine you need. And we're here to grow with you, right? We're here to solve this problem and solve the next problem and build for the future. So I think about that too. Are the schemas I'm deploying, are they up to par for what the market is going to throw at it 5 years from now, 10 years from now? I'm building for that level. I'm not building for 2 years from now. I'm building for like 5 to 10 years from now. What does the structure of the database need to be? And if they make the leap if they go from QuickBooks to NetSuite, what does the data set need to look like now so they can just deploy when that comes, right? I'm thinking about those things. Yeah.
And if we were sitting here a year from now, what would need to have happened for you to say that was a very successful year for SKU Mantra?
First thing that popped into my mind is if I'm still putting food on the table for my 4 kids and my wife, then we're having a good year, right? If I'm still loving what I'm doing, we're having a good year. But I would like to onboard 5 to 10 new customers every year. I would like just 5 to 10 new customers to onboard to my total SKU strategy every year. And if I'm growing at that pace, then I'm happy. So I would say food on the table and 5 to 10 new customers every year, then we're good.
Those are great goals. And with those goals, what are the biggest risks or blockers you see that could prevent you from hitting those goals?
We talked earlier about like the question was around, what do the top level leaders need to be thinking about to solve this problem? The pain has to be felt inside of companies to solve this problem. So if solution selling is all about, latent pain. And that concept is so true in this industry is if there's latent pain and the customer isn't feeling the pain point of my SKUs are causing revenue problems. My SKUs are making me add more headcount. There must be a better way. If that's the case, then they don't need to use me, right? And I'm not in the business of convincing someone to use my services. I'm not chasing after someone for the sale. If there isn't pain there, it's not worth my time. So that's the first thing I think of is they've got to feel the pain to solve this problem. The second is I'm not concerned that AI is going to solve this problem. I'm very well aware that AI is going to enhance the utility of this problem. So I'm not concerned that ChatGPT is going to come out with a taxonomy engine to feed it a CSV file and say, spit something out for me. But I am concerned that other companies who have more resources than them can throw more bodies at this issue and they can solve this process within their platform before they need me. And I'm already hearing some of these rumblings, like some POS systems are trying to build SKU processes in their engines as soon as they enter in their information. I'm hearing at the retail level this stuff is happening. But more often than not, the true person that is needing solved for this type of problem, it's the brand. It's the upstream product. It's not a retailer that's hoovering up these products. It's the brand that's developing these products that they need to develop these SKUs right away. So I'm thinking about how can I get access to brands faster and get my voice out there. I'm small. How can I make sure that my voice is out there and that I'm seen as an expert? So, did I answer your question?
Hmm.
Okay.
And so, with some of those concerns, how do you plan to navigate those to get through those blockers?
Well, this is one of them. When you reached out for a podcast, I was like, this is a great way. Make a friend, have a good conversation, have your network see that there's a brain out there that's thinking through this stuff that really cares about this problem. I'm sure your network is connected with investors, is connected to people who are managing manufacturing brands and all sorts of stuff. Podcasting, I'm thinking about that much so. I don't know if there's a much want for a SKU specific podcast. I don't think, but at least a small branding audio of this is who this guy is. This is, oops, these are the vinyl records and all, and this is what he's into and this is how he thinks about data. And I think there's room for just a personal podcast to just have my brand breakthrough. I'm developing some ebook materials, just some free ebooks to get my philosophy out there of this is how leaders need to be thinking about this stuff. And the real question though is like, my I'm just trying to produce content and not be concerned if my people are going to hear my voice. And I think I don't want to put my head in the sand and think that my voice is too small. Therefore, I'm not going to produce an ebook. Therefore, I'm not going to produce a podcast. I'm not going to write a LinkedIn article. I'm not going to make my 2 posts a day. I'm not going to do this. I'm just going to stay moving forward and allow my brain to stay engaged into the market, and then trust that those efforts are a part of the waterfall of when a customer comes from me. I'm ready. I'm ready to engage. It's like I wrestled growing up. I wrestled through college. I played high levels of baseball. If you're not drilling every day as a wrestler and just being prepared for your next match, you never know if the starting wrestler is going to not make weight and you're going to have to pop in and be ready to, go. Or if you're not taking your extra batting practice and you get your name called in a critical situation, when you get called up to the plate, if you're decreasing your odds if you're not going through your motions. So I'm just trying to execute good motions to keep my brain and my voice relevant to the market that would choose to hear me. And that has allowed me to test the waters and see that there's partnerships that are interested in my voice. There aren't necessarily clients flocking to me on LinkedIn because they need SKUs, but there are partners who are like, oh, we need to meet Zach. So I'm just keep trying to do things that allow my message to be heard at whatever level it explodes to or doesn't explode to, and not allow the voice in the back of my head to say it's not working or quit, just that negativity in. And that's tough. Like when you're an entrepreneur, and this isn't my first rodeo. I've been through a couple startups before, so I don't have a chip on my shoulder, but I have experience to go on. That just moving forward is the name of the game. Solid forward progress. And if that net forward progress equates to at the end of your week equates to positive traction, then great. But you're going to have weeks that are going to have negative traction. But on the net, if you look at your whole year, did you have positive traction? Then you're good.
Great. And then for anyone who does listen and wants to learn more about SKU Mantra or connect with you, can you share the best place?
Yeah. I'm a Zach, a Z-A-C-H. My email is zach@skumantra.com. I'm on LinkedIn, so you can reach out to me there. I'm always looking to connect with people and just have conversations. And I would say, even if they're interested in how I think through things or maybe you've got people who are looking to implement an ERP. How should we be thinking about this? I've implemented tons of software. So if someone out there needs to have a technology-based conversation around, this is what I'm looking to do with my software stack, what do you think? Or this is what I'm looking to do in my growth with adding new SKUs to my environment, what do you think? Or, hey, I'm $5 million a year right now. I'm looking to scale to 20 million. What problems could I run into with my software stack if I'm not thinking about them now? I'm a great sounding board for stuff like that. I've implemented software for $1 billion companies and for $5 million companies. And the problems are almost always the same. The problems are we don't have our SKUs in order and we don't have our processes between departments documented. And so, yeah, I'm a safe conversation. I love vinyl records. I love music. I've got 4 kids. I'm a wrestling coach for the varsity girls team here in the city that I live in. I coach my kids in baseball. I'm heavily involved in the community. There's a lot to me outside of what I do. I would want whoever's listening to this, I would want you to know that I love this industry and the problem that I solve. It is like it it is I'm the happiest person in the world. As boring as this issue is to people, I know, but I love this problem. And I'm a safe sounding board if someone wants to have a conversation. Here's another thing too. I own my own company. I've been laid off from companies. If there are people out there listening to this that have been laid off, I've been through that too. If you just need a friend and want to have a conversation about that, like reach out. Like I'm safe. I've navigated job change too. So, and if you're a solution partner out there that just wants to learn more about my company and how I could add value to your platform, let's have a conversation. I'm a huge proponent of building ecosystem partnerships if it makes sense.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And thank you, everyone, for tuning into Mo's Market Pulse. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave us a comment, and join us again to hear more insights from leaders coming up on future episodes. And thank you again, Zach, for joining us today.
Thank you.